Hello and welcome to WION Live Broadcast from Washington, D.C. I'm Simon Marks and these are the top headlines of this Tuesday. The White House calls the deaths of at least 46 migrants in Texas absolutely horrific and heartbreaking. The bodies were found last night inside an 18-wheeler truck in San Antonio. Russia cannot and should not win the war in Ukraine, says French President Emmanuel Macron, after G7 leaders meeting in Germany call Russia's strike on a Ukrainian shopping centre a war crime. The lower house of the French Parliament is meeting today with centrist allies of President Macron coming closer to building a stable majority, despite an election upset earlier this month. In a special gesture, the UAE's president receives Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Abu Dhabi. Prime Minister Modi will pay his condolences following the death of former UAE President Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan. And the Indian rupee plunges to a new low, touching 78.83 against the dollar, as soaring oil prices fuel worries of long-term inflation. We begin today in South Texas, seen most recently, of course, of the Uvalde Elementary School shooting, now seen of another atrocity. At least 46 people were found dead inside an 18-wheeler truck parked on a remote road in the southwest of the city of San Antonio. A federal investigation is now getting underway into the deaths of migrants who were seeking a new life just 250 kilometers north of the U.S. border with Mexico. It's the deadliest recent incident of human smuggling along that border. 16 people were found alive in the blisteringly hot truck and transported to hospital. San Antonio's fire department chief said stacks of bodies were found in a truck that had no working air conditioning and no supplies of water.
At this time, we have processed approximately 46 bodies that have been triaged and tagged and declared deceased at this time. Fortunately, we were able to transport 16 people. 12 of those are adults and 4 pediatric. All of them were conscious at the time of our transportation. The patients that we saw were hot to the touch. They were suffering from stroke, exhaustion, no signs of water in the vehicle. It was a refrigerated tractor trailer, but there was no visible working AC unit on that rig.
These enormous trucks are often used by people smugglers to conceal undocumented migrants. In recent months, there have been a record number of migrant crossings at the US-Mexico border. The surge has sparked criticism of President Joe Biden's immigration policies, with the Republican governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, immediately placing the blame for the deaths directly at the president's door. For more, we're joined by WION's US correspondent, Susan Tehrani, who is in New York this morning. Susan, give us an update on the investigation so far, and how much is this incident going to lead immigration once again to be a major issue in the November midterm elections here?
So, Simon, the latest information we have right now is 3 people have been arrested in connection to this tragic incident, tragic and preventable. They have been taken into custody. The driver initially fled the scene. We don't know whether or not the driver is one of the people who have been taken into custody or not. What happened was the individuals were immediately taken to the hospital, and authorities said they were hot to the touch, mostly women and children, but we do know at least one 5-year-old was among those who were dead. That's the latest. Immigration is a central point, obviously, in the elections coming up, notably in states that border the South. But, you know, more importantly, I think it'll really be a referendum on the Biden administration's policies when it comes to dealing with migrants and how, quote unquote, the borders are. Kamala Harris really didn't even take the time to go to the southern border to see what's happening on the ground. This latest incident really put that into perspective.
Susan Tehrani in New York. Stay with us, Susan, because we're going to be coming back to you shortly. Next today, mystery here in Washington. The House of Representatives Select Committee investigating the Capitol riots last year will be holding an unexpected public hearing today. It was announced just 24 hours ago. The committee said the decision to hold the hearing came in light of new evidence that has come into its possession. Witness testimony is also expected to be taken, but about what and from whom? We do not know. Some reports suggest that Cassidy Hutchinson may be a witness today. She was an aide to Donald Trump's former White House Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, and the committee believes she is a consequential witness, especially with regard to communications that Mr. Meadows received from Virginia Thomas, the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. She was among those Republican insiders urging the White House to overturn Joe Biden's election win. So, back to WION's correspondent Susan Tehrani, who joins us live from New York. So, Susan, what is your guess about what lies ahead? Dramatic, earth-shattering new revelations, or is this simply the committee trying to get the public's attention this side of what's going to be a long weekend here and the July 4th Independence Day holiday?
So the committee probably believes that it has significant information to share, that it's showing up on Capitol Hill 3 days before the July 4th holiday weekend on the one hand. But on the other hand, to call a witness like this, it may be, to sway public opinion and try to keep the conversation going. But on the other hand, it might be the reluctance of the witness to show up later on. And considering the fact that this committee has had a lot of problems bringing up live testimony from witnesses, let's not forget that a lot of witnesses have not agreed to testify live. This might be an opportunity that may be missed if not taken right now. So that may be one aspect of it. But ultimately, whether or not it'll be a bombshell revelation or not, we've said this time and again, a lot of minds have been made. But one last thing, I think the bigger picture about the January 6th hearings that the Democrats don't understand is that, yes, it's horrible for Donald Trump. That's one aspect of it. But the other aspect of it is, what may be taken away from it is that a few brave Republicans stood up to these crazy stories, and the story became victorious and institutions were held at the end of the day. And this may ultimately help the Republicans moving forward.
All right, Susan Tehrani, that mystery will be solved in a few hours' time. We will both find out who the witness is. Time to get the popcorn ready. Susan Tehrani live for us in New York City today. A court in Louisiana has blocked the enforcement of efforts to ban abortion at any stages of a pregnancy in the state. The so-called trigger law snapped into place right after last Friday's Supreme Court ruling striking down Roe v. Wade, the landmark opinion that had kept abortion legal in the United States since 1973.
Governor John Bel Edwards signed 2 Senate bills that essentially change the terms of Louisiana's trigger law. In some cases, making the law somewhat more advantageous for abortion seekers. The new law, it makes it clear that People who seek abortion cannot be prosecuted for doing so. Only providers can do that. And the new law also clarifies, at least provides some clarity around what circumstances could be considered to harm the life or health of the mother.
The lawsuit in Louisiana was filed on behalf of local abortion providers. They argued that the ban lacked the required safeguards to prevent erratic enforcement of the law. Louisiana's 3 remaining abortion clinics have said that for now, they will resume providing abortion services to patients following the ruling.
I know that the clinic in Shreveport is hoping to be offering abortion again as early as tomorrow. I don't believe that the 2 clinics in New Orleans and Baton Rouge have yet made any kind of announcement about that, about how quickly they could be back up and running. It's anyone's guess what will happen at the hearing on July 8th.
Similar lawsuits have been filed in other states. A court in Utah granted a restraining order that would block that state's trigger law for the next 2 weeks. A judge in Florida is weighing up a request from abortion rights groups there who want to halt the imposition of a law that would ban abortions after the 15th week of pregnancy. Florida has been protecting abortion rights through a privacy amendment for over 40 years. While abortion remains a highly divisive issue across the United States, questions are also now being raised about whether the Republican-appointed majority on the Supreme Court might next seek to limit other rights, including access to contraception and same-sex marriage. A senior al-Qaeda-linked terrorist was killed in a US-led drone strike in Syria's Idlib province in the early hours of Tuesday. Syrian opposition activists and the US military have both confirmed the death. The strike happened when the suspected terrorist was riding a motorcycle across the northwestern part of the country. It is the latest in a series of strikes aimed at al-Qaeda terrorists in Syria. US Central Command, also known as CENTCOM, said that its forces conducted a kinetic strike in Idlib province where Abu Hamza al-Yemeni was killed. He was a senior leader of the Horas al-Din group. CENTCOM says al-Yemeni was travelling alone at the time and that there were no civilian casualties. Syria's opposition groups have also confirmed that. Issuing a statement after the attack, CENTCOM said al-Qaeda-aligned organisations such as Horas al-Din continue to present a threat to America and our allies, and that the removal of this senior leader will disrupt al-Qaeda's ability to carry out attacks against US citizens, our partners and innocent civilians around the world. There were tragic and extraordinary scenes in Jordan on Monday after a deadly gas leak in the southern port city of Aqaba killed at least 13 people and injured hundreds of others. The leak came after a tank filled with 25 tons of chlorine gas fell while it was being transported. The tank slammed into the deck of a ship, fractured, and released plumes of toxic yellow smoke. The incident prompted dock workers to evacuate the site in a bid to escape the fumes.
يعني كنا بالدوام شمينا ريحة غاز وصار معنا يعني زي اختناق بس يعني ماشي يعني شركتنا ما قصرت معنا يعني عطونا كمامات وكل شيء ونقلونا على المستشفيات.
Chlorine is a widely used disinfectant and water purification agent. However, if it's inhaled, the gas turns into hydrochloric acid, which can lead to fatal internal burning. A team of experts was immediately deployed to the site to assist rescue workers. Authorities have quarantined the port area and advised residents to stay indoors as much as possible. Aqaba's southern beach was also evacuated after the incident. Jordan's Prime Minister also visited the port city to review the crisis.
وانا سمعت من مدير المستشفى انه الادخالات عم تنزل، عدد الحالات الادخالات عم تنزل. هذا بفضل الله وبفضل الجهود بترقي الناس بالموجه الاولى وباستيعابهم بتوفير العلاج اللازم لهم. وانا كلفت وزير الداخليه يترأس فريق كمان لاجراء تحقيق بالحادث واللي صار. وطبعا جلال سيدنا الله يطول عمره يعني متابع معنا اول باول هو سمو ولي العهد.
One of the most brazen terrorist attacks from the world's biggest terror organisation. That's how Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is describing the bombing of a crowded shopping mall in the central city of Kremenchuk. At least 18 people were killed in the Russian bombardment and over 25 hospitalised with serious injuries. It's believed that over 1,000 people may have been in the complex when Russian forces struck.
Rescue workers in Ukraine on Tuesday scrambled to find survivors of a Russian missile strike on a busy shopping mall. More than a dozen people were killed when 2 missiles struck the mall in the city of Kremenchuk on Monday. While firefighters and soldiers sifted through rubble, medical workers tended to the injured. The public hospital is treating 25 patients, some of them in critical condition. This husband and wife were shopping at an electronics store when the blast hit.
I flew headfirst and splinters hit my head. The whole place was collapsing. Then I landed on the floor and I don't know if I was conscious or unconscious.
I saw lots of wounded people, burned people. Some were covered in blood. One girl fell down and we helped pull her along. She fell and lost consciousness, but we tried to help her.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has called the attack a calculated strike. He said around 1,000 people were in the mall at the time. Not all of them have been accounted for. At a hotel near the mall, people lined up to register the names of those who are still missing, about 40 so far.
I was working and I heard the explosion and I saw the fire. I put my friend's name on the list, but we have no information whether he's alive or not.
Witnesses said an air raid siren had sounded the alarm ahead of the attack, but shops remained open. The mall's management had recently changed the rules, allowing them to do so. Russia had yet to comment on the strike by early Tuesday. It calls its invasion of Ukraine a, quote, special operation. Meanwhile, leaders of the group of 7 major democracies have raised an outcry, calling the strike, quote, abominable. They've promised nearly $30 billion in new aid for Kyiv.
Just one bit of breaking news taking us back to the day's top story, the tragic loss of so many lives of undocumented migrants in South Texas. The Mexican Secretary of External Relations says that the death toll in Texas has risen to 50 and that among the dead are 22 Mexicans, 7 Guatemalans and 2 Hondurans. So that is the latest on that awful story that broke late last night in the United States in the city of San Antonio. Now, as Russia's invasion of Ukraine continues, NATO leaders are again focused today on ramping up military and economic pressure on the Kremlin. But in Russia itself, some local fashion designers are trying to help the country's beleaguered economy. The annual Moscow Fashion Week is going ahead. Local designers claim to see it as a chance to revive the country's economic fortunes that have, of course, been waylaid by sanctions and supply chain disruptions.
Every conflict has collateral damages. Along with it comes sufferings. People suffer, economies take a beating, and so does the industries. Russian fashion industry is no different. It is caught in the crossfire of the Ukraine conflict. A double whammy for the industry already plagued by COVID slowdown. Moscow's invasion into Ukraine meant that supply chains were broken and designers faced the wrath of Western labels as they exited Russia. Production also took a blow as most of the fabrics were imported in Russia. At the recently organized annual Moscow Fashion Week, Russian designers showcased their work. While industry professionals saw this as an opportunity, they believe it is an opportunity which is not enough.
The first shock I experienced was during the pandemic. I thought it was the worst thing that could happen. But as they say, there was a knock from below. This military operation happened. Of course, it has an impact because prices have gone up a lot. Now everyone says that the exchange rate is falling, but logistics are 10 times more expensive.
Globally, the luxury fashion industry saw growth despite inflation and war. And it grew by nearly 1/3 to $198 billion US. As Russian designers attempt to revive their country's luxury fashion industry. They hope of a silver lining in the times of war to aid the ailing economy. Designers are hopeful to make a new beginning.
Well, yes, I think for Russia as a whole, it's new possibilities unmistakably. Because we'll create something of our own, develop our own fashion industry.
Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Next today, the story of two Middle Eastern women who are breaking gender stereotypes by taking on traditionally male-dominated roles, from autocross to automotive repairs. They can do it all.
This is Afnan Al-Magrani, the first Saudi woman to be certified as an autocross instructor. A woman driven by her passion for the sport and her endeavour to motivate millions like her, who've been made to believe that racing and autocross isn't the sport for them.
Some women are scared or hesitate while driving in general. The best example would be when they're driving on a main road, they might find it difficult to turn right or left. Practicing autocross racing helps them to improve and allows them to focus attentively while driving, increasing their confidence. Women have been asking to take the time to learn the sport.
Before she took up the sport, Afnan had kept her driving license tucked away in a drawer for over 2 years. Why? Because she was scared, and she isn't the only one. It's only when she discovered her passion for autocross that she committed herself to not just following her passion, but also helping other women and young girls like herself. She believes that the training not only teaches her students how to race, but also helps them fight their fears and become more confident. It gives them a sense of belonging. While Afnan is here teaching young girls in Saudi Arabia, over in Sharjah, Huda Al-Matrushi is repairing automotives in her garage. Huda is the first Emirati female car mechanic. Yes, the first woman to own and run an auto workshop in UAE.
What motivated me to work in this field is my passion for cars. It's been a dream, an ambition, a will and challenge to prove myself that I could do it.
Huda started working in auto repairs in 2006 until the year 2020, when she took a leap of faith and decided to open her own workshop.
Anything you do, there will always be people going against you. People will say, how will you do it? How will you work? How will you work yourself with your own hands? This is degrading. There is no such thing as degrading in any honorable work within the framework of principles, respect and morals. What was really degrading was that I was unemployed.
As per some estimates, globally, women make up less than 3% of the automotive industry. So, to say it is a tall feat is an understatement. But here she is, splitting her time between a government job in Sharjah and running her workshop. Who said women couldn't do it all? Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
To lighten people's mood amid global tensions, Brazil gave the world a chance to witness its cultural heritage. The country is celebrating a folklore festival with colourful costumes and music.
Every year is very exciting. It seems like it's always the first time. We get nervous and anxious, and after 2 years, boss, the emotion is even bigger. We are excited and happy to be here today.
And that's all we have time for on this edition of WION Live Broadcast from Washington, D.C. We will give the world another spin at exactly the same time tomorrow. I will see you then. Until then, stay with WION for all your news updates. World is One.
There are many other